Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of The Staircase in the Woods by Chuck Wendig. This is a book coming out April 29th, 2025. It's from Del Rey. It's a horror book. I received this book from NetGalley in exchange for a fair review. Yes, it is horror week here, apparently. And I have another horror book. Well, it's more of a thriller next week, too. But then back to sci-fi. A horror book heavy on the trauma. The Staircase in the Woods is conceptually rich, but I will admit it didn't entirely work for me. What it's about. 5 high school friends are bonded by an oath to protect one another no matter what. Then, on a camping trip in the middle of the forest, they find something. A mysterious staircase to nowhere. One friend walks up and never comes back down. Then the staircase disappears. 20 years later, the staircase has reappeared. Now the group returns to find the lost boy and what lies beyond the staircase in the woods. The premise of this book is unarguably cool. Staircases in the woods are real things. Along with my other weird niche interests, abandoned spaces is something that I love. And while I've never found an actual staircase myself, I've gone to several abandoned towns and like ghost towns, things like that. Staircases in the woods form when the walls of a structure that's out there degrade, but the staircase remains. I mean, you probably figured that out, but just in case you were curious. It's really fun, I find, when horror novels take real-life things that are kind of weird and turn them into horror settings. So I really thought that was fun. It's a really neat image, too, walking through the forest and all of a sudden there's a staircase. Like, wow. What appears up the staircase is also very cool in concept. This is a mild spoiler as it's revealed about 20% of the way in, but what lies at the top is a labyrinthine house with seemingly infinite number of rooms, each with a disturbing scene unfolding sort of on repeat. I had to talk about this because I can't talk about the rest of I can't really do a review without mentioning this because it's the major part of the story. It's also a very cool concept, kind of like that movie 13 Ghosts mixed with Cube in a way, but the scenes were they're just too much for me. I like scary stuff. I like ghosts in dark hallways. I like monsters. I don't mind violence as long as it's not, graphic sexual violence or directed at children. And even then, if it's implied or off the page, I can handle it. But this was just one thing after another. This book is overly disturbing, but it's not scary. I was not creeped out at all. I was grossed out. And I mean, I'm not saying that authors should sanitize their work, or even that in the context of this book, these things didn't have a purpose. And I also don't think this book even reaches the level of splatter horror. It's just not the type of horror that I enjoy reading. It does tie into the story, albeit in like a heavy-handed way, as the main theme of the book is, people overcoming trauma, as all the characters are emotionally damaged in some way or other. It's not like it hits too close to home. It's just like, it's too serious for me. Like, I read horror as almost an escapism, as like, oh, it's scary, and that's the kind of fun thing about it. It scares me, but I'm fine in real life. Where the kind of just depressing level of violence, just over and over in different ways that they encounter in the house, I was just like, I don't know. It's just, that didn't work for me. I was just kind of like, ugh. And not only did the house contain some really like awful events, everything from like suicide to gruesome murder, you have lines in the book that were outright disturbing on top of that, some of which dealing with animals, which served to heighten the ick factor for me. Like, no thank you. It's not my style. It's just not my style. Thing is though, I think that this book would probably work for a lot of people that enjoy really intense horror, that don't mind things like that. I was just like, nah. If that had been the only aspect that I wasn't into, I probably would have given this book like a, 3.5 to 4 stars. I don't often talk about stars in my reviews because most of the time they're arbitrary, but sometimes they do give you kind of a good benchmark. So in this case, I would say that this book fell to kind of like a 2.5 to 3 stars for me because of the characters. I found them very annoying and none of them were likable for me. They're all older than me, so in their 40s, but they acted like they were in their early 20s. In truth, they felt like YA characters dropped into an adult story. They're whiny, combative, too focused on stuff that happened in high school, talk like they're teenagers, and their reliance on the phrase "the covenant" to sway decisions felt immature. Like, adults don't do that. It also was far too close to Stephen King's It setup. Like, you have this group of boys and one girl who bond together in school over hyperbolic bullies, and then 30 years later they come back together when one of them is dead, or in this case, dying. In truth, I don't think we needed that backstory info dump of them as teenagers at all. Like, I understand, old people coming back together with their high school friends. Like, that's a concept I think everyone can kind of like understand. I don't think we needed like what their lives were like back in the day, because people change a lot from high school to now. So I don't think it really mattered. And the thing with Stephen King's It is like that book is massive. There's huge chapters devoted to their changes as an adult and how things change for them. Where this just is like, here they were in high school, here they are now. And the thing is, they didn't seem to change much from high school. The worst of them was Lauren. I couldn't stand her. She was so over the top about her views and opinions. She comes off as a stereotype, and it felt like virtue signaling. I share her political views, like for the most part. But would I rail into my friend I hadn't seen in 20 years about his? No, because that's not an effective way to have a dialogue. If you watch White Lotus, a show that I'm actually up on, shockingly, because I barely watch TV, season 3 has a much more interesting discussion on a friend's changing politics over the years that is more realistic in how adults actually act. I just found this, I was like, I don't know. I just didn't feel like they acted their ages, and I just found that held me back from liking them. To wrap up, I am sure this book has a readership. It's just not me. I think it would have worked better as a novella, parse out some repetition, make the characters more likable, and remove some of the over-the-top grossness. And I think I would have actually probably loved it. Like, I really loved the concept. And I did find that the writing was, like, very immersive. Like, it flows really quickly. It's got a good pace. But, I don't know, maybe I'm just, like, old. I don't know. Also, there was a weird line about someone putting the U in humorous to make it sound more fantastical. What's fantastical about UK Canadian spelling? I don't know. That was really weird to me. I was like, what the heck? Anyway, I'm sorry that this can't be a more positive review. But yeah, I mean, I hope that if you watch this and you're like, actually that stuff sounds cool to me, I hope you check it out. So thanks.